great artists usually work in like phases, like different periods of their career where they do something stylistically or artistically different. And JPEG Mafia is no different. So we're in this kind of era of I Lay Down My Life for You, the album he released last year. And a long time question for me has been, what do you do with artists who do that? Like, if you love a certain phase of an artist and they're going to move on, how can you extend that feeling? And especially with music, how can you hear more songs that were created during this insanely fertile time of their creativity? How do you do it? Well, back in the olden days, back in my days, you used to have to do goofy things like buy import CDs, like CD singles from Japan that have an extra song that was recorded at the same time. And now you get to hear, I don't know, Palo Alto by Radiohead, which was some song they recorded during the OK Computer session, And now it's different. Now everything's accessible. But then the other question that didn't used to be as big of a question is, when you're an artist, how do you make money? Like, how do you make a living? Even if you're a successful artist, it's hard to make money off of streaming. So the answer to both these questions kind of coalesced over the last few years of the deluxe edition epidemic, trend, existence. And it's a really important thing. The idea is this: you release an album of some import, and then you release a deluxe version. And what that does is that forces people to essentially buy your music again. Because if streaming is how you get paid, then listening is how you pay an artist. That's how you pay them, is by listening. And if it's an artist that you like a good deal, but they're not your favorite, you're not the top 1% of whatever, then you might just sort of be like me and like, I love this album, I Lay Down My Life for You. But I haven't really been listening to it that much. I've been mostly in Kendrick land and doing a lot of sort of historical hip-hop stuff, and I'm just whatever, listening to tons of Beatles at home. So, like, I forgot about it, and I didn't really click on it. I didn't really listen to it a ton. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a positive review. I still think he's one of the best producers around, if not the best producer out there. But how does he get me to listen again? And that's what the deluxe edition can do. It gives me a reason to go back. It gives you a reason to go back. And what's cool is that as we're entering this phase of some way of remonetizing a product that you've already made, there's two modes that I see. One's based on video games and the other's based on cinema, based on movies. The video game mode is what I call the DLC. It's where you just sort of add a little something. Like you add an extra map in a video game, or an extra skin, or an extra character. Or for some goddamn reason, you can ride a motorcycle in Zelda. Makes no sense. Doesn't matter. Like, you can just kind of add stuff into a game that doesn't really recontextualize the original game. It's just a little added thing. And then there's the cinematic approach, which forces you to rethink the original with what are essentially director's cuts. So, in the history of movies, very often there is studio interference, which requires that a director change their vision, change their movie to better suit what the studio wants, to make it more commercial, or maybe so that it makes more money. Those are the three main reasons why you do it. Over time, directors who are successful get more power, get more money, get more attention, and they're allowed to do a director's cut. So musicians have followed these different models. You can either make a real recontextualizing of the actual art, like re-release it but make it totally different, or just kind of add stuff. I think SZA did the sort of director's cut kind of thing, and that's what I would Lay Down My Life for You director's cut is trying to be. Now, going back to movies, I think it's instructive to think about what movies have shown us with director's cuts. The saddest ones are ones that we'll never see. We'll never see Orson Welles' vision of the Magnificent Ambersons. It'll just never exist. We just have to imagine how good that movie could have been. They can be great, like Ridley Scott's re-envisioning of Blade Runner, that he had more power, he was able to do that, or James Cameron's director's cut of Aliens. And then sometimes you have bad ones. But what's interesting is when a director's cut is a bad cut of a great movie. And for that, I'm going to use the example Apocalypse Now Redux. That's my main comparison between I Lay Down My Life for You and a director's cut. Now listen, this main similarity is this. The director's cut of Apocalypse Now and I Lay Down My Life for You, both of the director's cuts are significantly worse than the original. Seriously. A huge downstep from the original. Step down. But I am desperately happy that they exist, and I'm so thankful that we have them. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who is often reminded of a quote by Woody Allen. Not a great guy, great filmmaker, and he once said, if he had to choose in making a movie, and there's three main tasks: writing, directing, and editing. He said that the most control he would want to have is of writing and editing. That's even more important than directing. And that raises this whole question with I Lay Down My Life For You director's cut with JPEG How did he not have complete control? I mean, really? There was some A&R who plays the electric guitar and rock climbs, short arms and long, deep pockets? I forget the line. Like how is it possible that the original is not what he actually envisioned? I personally think, I think it was. I don't think this is actually a director's cut, in which case it goes into a weird zone, like Ridley Scott's Alien director's cut, which he made for the simple reason of being able to release it in movie theaters. He totally denounces the director's cut of the first Alien movie, but he just made it so we could hear it. But let's go back to Apocalypse Now, because I think that's the best comparison. So if you haven't seen Apocalypse Now by Francis Ford Coppola, it's one of my favorite movies, one of my few 5 stars on Letterboxd. There's not a lot of war movies that I love. I say Paths to Glory. Paths to Glory, and sorry, I just got a weird text. I need to not read text while I'm recording videos. Hey, YouTubers. If you want to be a good YouTuber, don't read text messages while recording videos. Anyways, Paths to Glory and Apocalypse Now are the 2 great war movies, in my opinion. Okay, and Grand Illusion. Those are the 3 great war movies, but I love it. It was one of the earliest movies that taught me what cinema could be with a capital C. It's quotable, it's fascinating, it's a deep study of war, it's a deep study of humanity, it's a great interpretation of Joseph Conrad's book, which I'd later read, although I much prefer Lord Jim by Conrad. If you've never read Lord Jim, it's a great book. Better than Hearts of Darkness, I think. More intriguing, more interesting, better read. And the documentary about Apocalypse Now, Hearts of Darkness, made by his daughter, wife, some family member of Coppola. They're everywhere. Wow. It's one of the best movie documentaries of all time. So, I love this movie. And then around maybe it's 99, 2000, they released Redux, the new version of Apocalypse Now, which included some of the deleted scenes that we got little snippets of in the Apocalypse Now documentary. And we got to see it. As an example, the French plantation. I almost said French plantation. The French plantation. A scene where they show up and they see people who refuse to leave Indochina as it became Vietnam. The colonial history of Vietnam, the fact that France is basically responsible for the Vietnam War in a lot of real ways in the post-colonial history. As a French professor who teaches about Indochina, I teach about this war, I teach about Dien Bien Phu. As a historian, I should be so happy that this extended 8-minute scene is in the middle of one of my favorite movies. On paper, it's beautiful. The light, the way Storo's, the cinematography, it's all filmed in magic hour lighting. It's this ethereal, dreamlike history lesson with beautiful acting, and there's a sex scene, and all of it, and there's food, and there's wine. But I don't want it. I'm happy it exists, but I don't want it. It totally screws up the pacing. You hear how I said that? It totally screws up the pacing. It totally screws up the pacing. Totally screws up the rhythm, the flow, the atmosphere, everything about it. It should not be in the movie, but I'm happy that it exists. And I'm going to go even one step further. I'm happy that a version of the movie exists with it, even though I do not like it. Even though it is not something that I think should be in the movie, I'm happy that there is a version because it helps me to rethink of the movie, helps me to revisit it. It was a reason that I got to go back and see Apocalypse Now in the theater, and I got to see the Doors performing with, you know, the helicopters and the Agent Orange and the whole thing and the end and the beginning, all of it. It's so great. And that's how I feel about this JPEG Mafia album. I'm so happy that we have more from this period of time. I'm so happy that we have these songs integrated into the album, and even though it destroys the flow of the album, even though it wears out the welcome of the concepts that made the album itself so goddamn amazing, I'm still happy that it exists. Much like I will watch the Redux version of Apocalypse Now every once in a while just to see it again, I will listen to this album in that way as well. Sometimes I'll throw on the director's cut just to hear a couple of the songs that I like. Does that make sense to you as a metaphor, as a director's cut? And, you know, it's more, perhaps too much of what made this album so interesting. So JPEG Mafia did probably the best job ever of mixing together rock and rap. Feel free to tell me in the comments better examples of rock and rap. I mean, I guess Paris, Texas does it pretty well. But beyond that, you're just going to list a bunch of bands that I hate in the comments. So you go ahead. You list a bunch of bands that I hate. Maybe you'll find ones that I don't. Go ahead and ask me. Say, Skye, do you hate this band? And I'll say yes, or I'll say no. And then you'll be disappointed or you'll be happy. So that, and then also this kind of gauzy 70s cinematic feel. Like, at times he creates this feeling like we're watching like a romantic drama, and there's like a love scene by a spring with just a camera with just too much light and that kind of cinematic lightness. And so the director's cut is just more of those, too many of those packed in here. Perfect example of everything I'm saying is what I consider to be the French plantation scene of this album, Cult Status. Okay, if you've seen my review of the original, which probably you have, you should if you haven't. I think it was really good. I don't remember it that well, but I'm pretty sure it was good. The end of the song Black History is my favorite part of the whole album. You'll see back there the avant-garde-ometer for rap beats. That's, you know, right on the edge. It is so far avant-garde that it's basically unlistenable. But to me, this little beat that is just thrown in here and just out of nowhere and just so hard and head-noddy, and it makes you dream. What if? What if this were an actual song? And you could just imagine, and it's just the brilliance. Again, it reminded me of Timbaland, one of the greatest producers in rap history, who would often end a song with just like a little extra beat. And you're like, oh my God, what if we had a whole song of that? But this is the thing. The end of New Black History is better than this song, Cult Status. Turns out I didn't want it as a whole song. I don't hate it. It's good. It's still a head-nodding song, but I don't need the 1-2 and the dog barks, even though the dog's barking tie in really well to the song that comes before, It's Dark as Hell is Hot, because he's connecting it to DMX. So I kind of get that. Like, the song actually rules. It rules. The lyrics, I'll get to in a second, they're really good. The beat's still absolutely amazing, but I'm glad it's not on the album. The French plantation scene rules, but I'm glad it's not in the movie. Now let's talk about some of these lyrics. They send shots, they act surprised when they get grazed, run to the internet, they believe you'll get glazed. Senior splits, ish talk don't pay unless you was good enough to ish talk your way to yay. So I think he's taking shots at Freddie Gibbs. This feels like all these extra tracks are shots at Freddie Gibbs because this was recorded during the time when they were beefing in Milan, I guess. I don't quite know because like shit talk your way to yay, I assume that's that. And then he shouts out Bobby Digital. Now look, it's critical. I flipped the sample like Bobby Digital. I don't think this is coincidental. If you've never heard the album RZA as Bobby Digital, this is like one of the most disappointing rap albums of all time. I have to be honest. This album is really disappointing. RZA, when this album came out, RZA was my favorite producer. I think he's an unquestioned absolute mega genius. The artwork looks cool. I like his style of rapping, you know, all that. But there's like one good song on this album, and it's called NYC Everything. And I think this is on purpose. I think JPEG Mafia is doing this on purpose because I think he's paying homage to NYC Everything, which was the first rap song to use feedback. It's this crazy feedback loop. Hey, take the Professor Skye challenge and listen to NYC Everything off of Bobby Digital, okay? That is track 7. Listen to track 7 off of this, and then listen to Cult Status, and you'll see that he's taking influence from another producer who pushed who pushed. This is a great example of a super avant-garde rap beat. And he's mentioning Ye, he's mentioning Bodily Digital. I said the song's good, goddammit. The song's good. I don't want it in the album, but the song's good. Because he's like shouting out all these producers. And then he gets like super clever with these lines, you know. We're getting wavy. Let's start for something for the do-rags. I ain't seen a barbershop in years. Where a cube at? And if I got to push it to the edge, you getting lined up with a new tag. So, you know, like talking about lines up and barbershops, all barbershop talk, you know. Speaking of which, my wife said I need to trim my eyebrows. I'm getting all Martin Scorsese. Okay. My percentage over the number, like QWERTY keyboards, like that's clever because if you look at a keyboard, you know, there's a percentage over the number 5. Potato in a barrel, make him eat the hash with it. Bought the dame to Rockefeller, but I dashed with it like Dame Dash is a Rockefeller member. He's just having fun. And then the beat, he does this great thing where you can't keep that same beat the whole time, can you? And you can't make a beat out of me going, can you? Shout out all producers who can try. Like, he changes it and it becomes a lot more buzzy and a lot less it's like more farty and less headache. Since Pitchfork fell off, the yuppie's been going through it. Very funny. Hey, are you talking about me? If you think he's talking about you, he's probably talking about you. Burn. Look at my family tree. Saw Sleep as my favorite cousin. So, you know, he's taking you back to Nas, and, you know, Sleep is the cousin of death. Great, awesome, super great song. Love it. Super happy to have heard it. I'm glad to have a way to hear it. I like hearing it in the context of the full album. And if I never listen to this version of the album again, I would be happy. If you like what you see, smash the like bucket, subscribe. If you put in the letters AVAA in the comments, that stands for awesome videos always. I heart almost all of them. I'm not as good as I used to be. And if you join my Patreon, I often will ask you for if you want a shout out. I do them at the end or in the middle. So Leon, Andrew Thompson, Oliver Nickerson, Tatsumaki, Carpet Diem, Mig Online, Toby Repellent, even Augur, who joined for this, Eric from Salem, Zach Nupt, Zane Kordich, and maybe Nick Hill. They all asked for shout outs and they all got one. I don't know what level they are. They might be paying $3. They might be paying $50. But that's the Patreon promise. All right, let's get into the album proper. And it starts off with this IS-231 intro. Now listen. I didn't know what this was, and I looked up what it was, and it's a really beautiful thing. It's him and his father singing a Bob Marley song together when he's a kid. He said that stands for the school where he went to, and it's a Bob Marley song off of this album, Burnin'. Listen, I love Bob Marley, absolutely. In particular, if you've never listened to stuff he did with Lee Scratch Perry, that's my favorite Bob Marley music. My second favorite Bob Marley music is the stuff he did when he was still just making ska before he was an international superstar. I think sort of after Burnin', some of the production just gets a little too gauzy, too sweet, too nice, too polished. So this is one of my favorite Bob Marley albums. If you don't know it, I mean, you should own every Bob Marley album. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but definitely stronger in the beginning, in my opinion. Anyways, but it's a reminder of his Jamaican origins. I mean, his first name is Barrington. I guess he was named after Barrington Levy. Skiddly bop, skiddly whoa, sing, I'm broader than Broadway. I assume. I don't know. And he's singing about Babylon being in trouble. You know, he's actually singing about political, engaged lyrics from Bob Marley, from the song. Let's see, what track is it on here? Rastaman Chant. Right, the last track on the album. Oh, God. Have you ever heard Small Axe produced by Lee Scratch Perry? God damn. Man. This, you may not know this. He is the guy. Bob Marley is the guy. And so was Lee Scratch Perry. And it's just so sweet because his dad is showing him appreciation and saying rhythm again. And as we'll get to, you know, the thing about jpegmafia is he's probably the best producer of drums. I think like him, Prince Paul, and DJ Shadow. I think those are like the three who know how to use drums the best. I'm just spitballing here. Probably Kanye as well. He's really good at using drums. Anyways, but jpegmafia all the way throughout this album, he's just showing it. The bonus album. Anyway, that starts with I Scream This, which is the first song off the original album. I'm not going to go into the old songs because I already talked about them. Mentions Draymond Green. The bell of the ride cymbal leads in directly into the next song, which is the first of the bonus tracks, first full song, Protect the Cross. And this is that thing. It's like more of that rock stuff. And like the album has just enough, the actual album, not the director's cut, has just enough of the rock stuff, of the crunchy electric guitars and the bass and the mosh pit stuff. This is just too much. What's interesting is he's recording the lyrics to all these songs now, not then. So he says 2025, your politics is a gang sign. So he's like talking about the division of politics and all that, and it's like he's talking now. So I guess he re-recorded it. So it's actually sort of like an EP that he's smushing into. This is why it's not really a director's cut. It's not really DLC either. Fuck your writtens, you bombing like Charlie Hebdo. No. Nope. So the Charlie Hebdo thing's very complicated. If you don't know the story, Charlie Hebdo is a satirical newspaper in France that believed in freedom of the press, absolutely, and they drew pictures of Muhammad, which sort of makes them heroes because they got shot to death, not bombed, shot to death in their offices by, interestingly enough, failed rappers. True story. Or failed rapper, Kouachi. Sharif Kouachi. The actual history is very complicated because... Anyways, I'll do a video sometime about the Charlie Hebdo shootings. Obviously, they should not have been shot, but also it was the dominant class kind of pissing on the people who are most disadvantaged in French society. So it was a principled stance, but culturally insensitive. Doesn't matter. Point is, it's not actually that good of a line because he's pretending like Charlie Hebdo was bombed and it just wasn't. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Like, that'd be like saying... I'm going to cut your throat with a steak knife, like 9/11. It's like, no, it was a box cutter. Like, it's a box cutter. That's the whole point. Ghostface said, box cutter with that. Still too soon, by the way. That was still too soon. And it hadn't happened yet. That's right. Ghostface rapped about box cutter go in the W from 2000. And by like 1 year later, it was unlistenable. I love this breakdown of this generation, past the Dutchie, more kind of reggae connections. I love the sample left and right. The guitars go so hard. But then the second part is just too generic rocking. He created this style of mixing together kind of glitchy aggro rap, indie rap with heavy metal guitars. So he created that style, but he also kind of banalized it, made it less intriguing by overdoing it on this version here. It seems like he's just going after Drake on here and going after 50 Cent. I come through swiftly, don't beef with it. I'll do 50. Opless, don't trip me. I am when I'm rolling like wheelchair Jimmy. Don't say you got. I sort of wonder if this is gonna matter. All them gone Delilahs, they stand on nothing. Like, I wonder if it's going to matter at all. I don't think it will. I mean, it's like, as Kanye said, as Ye said, why did you have to go and kill the villain to Kendrick? Like, shots at Drake are kind of just, at this point, just kicking a man while he's down. Then, really political. White B-words ain't vote for Kamala, they lie, so I want to get in that box. I like the sound effect of the crack whipping while talking about whipping crackers. That's kind of a cool thing here. And there's just sort of like political anger. It's not really clear where he is, but it does seem that he's angry at the fact that, a white supremacist is in the White House. So, yeah. So, having white supremacists in the White House is not, it's not good. Like, that's bad. So it's just a good thing to remember. Just you don't have to say words like Nazi. Don't say that word. Who needs that word? I don't need that word. That word's dead. White supremacist. That's a perfectly good word. And a description for what's taking place. Because you'll just get wrapped up talking about Nazis. And that was like 80 years ago, everybody. Let it go. Let it go. There's things that are just as bad that don't have little mustaches. Sin Miedo is the next song, which, is an original. Big Buddy Hoes, get with it. It's a little too much. Like, the flow of the album is disrupted because the last song and this song is too clashing. And then by the time you get to I'll Be Right There, this downbeat part, the first time you listen to it, it's nice and it gives this little downbeat and rhythm. And here I feel like I'm, like, when you're swimming and you think you can go further than you can, and then you get scared, and then you swim back and you just barely get to the part where your feet can touch the bottom, but just barely. And that's how I feel when I get to this part listening to the director's cut. It's just too much. Then we get the Jordan Rules. Love the tinkling sound and the DJ scratches, and didn't grow up with baby videos. My mama couldn't afford cams. Nice detail of the poverty that he grew up with. And again, he clearly recorded this after releasing the last bit because he said, I was wrong when I said I'm Dylan Brooks. I'm a Billy Lambier kind of man. So he's going through more basketball. I've been making a concerted effort to get more into basketball for multiple reasons. One, probably my daughters are going to play basketball when they're older. So I want to like get back in the sport. No brain injuries. Everything that's good about soccer is good about basketball in terms of access. And just, you can't really like love hip hop without understanding basketball. So when he said Dylan Brooks, I had to look it up. But I remember Billy Lambier because I'm a Celtics fan. And that guy punched Larry Bird. And I love Larry Bird, but the dude deserves to be punched. That's the best thing about Larry Bird, is that he deserved to be punched, and he got punched, and he punched back. That's Larry Bird is slept on as a pain in the ass. Anyways, and I feel like I finally understand Jason Tatum. I was watching a game the other day, and I was like, oh, he's J. Cole. And when I understood that, like it made me love Jason Tatum more and J. Cole. Like, anyways, is that a thing? Does everybody know that? Because rappers love calling themselves after basketball players, and vice versa. I think it's just very clear. It's just very clear. Jason Tatum is J. Cole. I should do that, a whole video on that. And then a whole bunch of stuff on like current events. I thought he was saying, this voice saying, Turkey, you voted for Jill, you're a Fed, Jill Stein. Yo, he is seriously into some politics here. He's talking about Green Party, higher than healthcare, do some cardio, shot your boss like my brother was Mario. So he's talking about Luigi Mangione here. So obviously he recorded this after the album came out. So this is really, actually, it's a sneak EP. Next to Katana like Joker, I'm Ready to Laugh. Is that a Suicide Squad 2016 reference? Turkey. This beat change, it's a little bit predictable, but then I love this ending where it's just bass and tambourine, outstanding production, just the tambourines coming closely. You could just, if you love hip hop production, you just listen to JPEG Mafia, you just ignore the lyrics, you just listen to the instrumentals, your mind will be blown. White people copying culture, I want to be Trump, since y'all want to be N-words. Hey, have at it. It's dark as hell and hot. That's my 2-year-old's favorite song. Re-listening to this album, I haven't played this around the family since it first came out. This song came on, my 2-year-old, she's sitting there, she's playing with Elmo and the Count and, Cookie Monster. And then walk, 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 walk. She looks up like, walk, walk, walk. She remembers the song. New Black History, the great song. Oh, God, this song. When listening to this again, this is when I'm so happy, Because Apocalypse Now Redux happened, I was able to go to the movie theater. I think I saw it at the Sherry, 123. I think I saw it at the Sherry in Boston. Maybe Fresh Pond Cinema, somewhere around there. But I got to see Apocalypse Now on the big screen. I got to revisit New Black History, just with that Future sample and Vince Staples. I love it. And then we get to Cult Status, which I already discussed, and Don't Rely on Other Men. I heard you went down, down, down. And then Coked Up or Doped Up is in that song, and then that sample from the song Hit 'Em Up by Tupac Shakur is in here. And it's sketchy, distorted sounds, left to right, creepy sounds, super avant-garde, heavy bass on the first beat of the fourth bar. So when you hear it go, doo, you can count to 16, and then on 17, that bar will go again. The drums are so fucking syncopated. The drums are so syncopated, and the way they interact with this percussion, this weird mechanical production, it's freaking fascinating. The rhythm work that he does. The boring heavy metal bit, but that's okay. Coked up or doped up, and feels like Draymond and another aggressive basketball player. Inhale indica, exhale dope, I can't stop. So I don't have sponsorships here, but every once in a while I talk about cannabis usage, and I just want to be clear on this. I'm happy that it's legal. I think it's way better than alcohol, and no one should ever go to jail for doing it. And I assume for most people it's a fine thing. I just want to say my only advertisement is cannabis dependence is a real thing, and it leads to human misery. So if you think you might have cannabis dependence, just maybe go to therapy or something, like figure out a way to maybe like fill in that hole in a more productive way than a way that hurts your brain. That's it. That's my new policy. Love it. Weed, hooray. Awesome. No problem. But cannabis dependence is a sad thing. And a lot of people fall into it. And the messaging around weed is so positive that we just, it's like gambling. Just can't get too into it. Okay. He ends it with saying, "I'm so terminally online, I don't respect myself." He is. It's very clear he's terminally online. Like, he might even watch my videos. If he does, what's up? Do you mind that I call you Jamargaret, or do you think it's as funny as I do? Vulgar display of power, that quiet moment, and then ex-military. I just love this song based on After the Laughter by Wu-Tang, JPEG Ultra, Denzel Curry, the features on here. And then we get the Lay Down My Life For You, the acoustic guitar from JPEG Ultra comes in here, but now it has a chorus effect on it. This is crazy because it actually does feel like it's intentional. It does feel like it's the real version of the album. Cinematic and sweet, but the lyrics are terrible. If you're still watching, Jamargaret, what the hell, man? I'm so bored of you talking about the sex that you're having with all of the, I want how to make my bitch my main and not on the side, and this bitch and then that bitch and Brazil and Berlin and your side. And I'm just, dude, shut the fuck up. Who cares? God damn it, I'm so sick of it. Just, he's such a great artist, and just the amount of time he raps about whether or not he's having sex with my girlfriend. It's just like, I get it. I guess it's interesting. I guess. Isn't there more stuff to rap about when you're like a super genius rap producer? Anyways. Nice reference to Animal Fries for all you In-N-Out fans. Not In-N-Out, but like In-N-Out Fries. This is that full-on horror movie soft moment. It's weird that it's Buzzy Lee because he's sort of like this voice of like anger and sort of like, if there's going to be an uprising from the bottom against the people at the top, it's probably going to be soundtracked by him and having like a Steven Spielberg's daughter singing, but she's a great singer, so who knows. Boy You Should Know is this weird like poppy song with this great cut of voice samples, these compressed drums. And then here we had the song with too much sex in it. Now we had the song with too much drugs. It just lists it all. It's like, man, Danny Brown, like, is Danny Brown now more sober than JPEG Mafia? These are personal questions, but you gotta wonder. Oxycontin, Perkies, Benzos, Trenzodone. He made that one up. Coke and DMT, Molly acid, fentanyl, K2, nicotine, meth, and GHPs. He made that up too. Codeine, heroin, oxidone, nitrous ox, and PCP. I put all those things in me. It's like, dude, that's sad, man. But, that's less, And then a great beat switch, this wet sound, these weird rising sounds, this rapid delivery, pretending they care about shit, never leaving their promises. It's just like the clap on wait 1 week and it's over. Shit ain't been the same since 2020 when COVID hit. I don't know. Maybe this is the best song of the bonus stuff. God, it's great. Either on or off the drugs, this great sample, and then loop it and leave it. Another great sample. This is that drum interaction. This is where, again, just he might be the best producer of drums. Don't put anything on the Bible. The 70s soundtrack feel I recovered from this again. And then we ends with the new end of the album. The first version of the album ended with Jihad Joe. Now it ends with Allah. So weird sort of references to words in Arabic. Sweet and cool guitar curls around. The bell of the ride cymbal is being played, and so it connects to the first song, the Screaming in the Mirror song, and it actually reminds me strongly of By the Time I Get to Phoenix by Isaac Hayes, off of one of the best albums of all time. Hot Buttered Soul by Isaac Hayes has that kind of feel. It wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't thinking about that here. Every day I wake is a gift. I know some sons don't see morning. They've been praying for peace. Ain't no peace when you paid for that bombing. Whole song about praying and probably about Palestine as well. Weird, just awesome beat switch. And then a Lil Durk sample. I just decided last week in this very office that I don't like Lil Durk. And now we have an awesome Lil Durk sample here. So that's the first half. I'm going to go through the second half. But do you see? I prefer the original version, but I'm happy that it's here. When I listen to movies, I watch movies with the sound off. I'd never seen the movie First Blood, the first of the Rambo movies. Have you ever seen that movie? God, good golly, it's a good movie. It's nothing. There's no plot. It's just Sylvester Stallone comes home from Vietnam, tries to visit a friend of his. His friend is dead, and he's just walking around in the town. And for no reason at all, the police start screwing with him. And then the whole movie is just hours of Sylvester Stallone killing police officers in the woods. It's a great soundtrack for a JPEG Mafia album. You wouldn't think that those things would go together well, but you have an angry veteran killing, murdering symbols of white hegemonic power. It's great. So anyways, I suggest that. Listen to JPEG Mafia while watching First Blood with the sound off. Then we get to the second album. This is just the extras. What I like here is the intentionality. because it's clear that he does have a director's version of the original thing, and then this is all the stuff that is just extras. This is just bonus. What the hip-hop hell is this? God damn, this is a great song. It's like this slow, hard bass sounds, pitch down sample in the back, this kind of stutter step. It's almost kind of pop with a push down voice. And are you mad not getting rich? You sad not making hits? What the hip hop hell is this? Malcolm ain't die for this ish. Martin ain't die for this ish. N-words that grow up around crackers their whole life, turn 20, go hotep and shit. It's facts. I'm not the one you want to hear having hotep discussions, but I imagine I've heard a lot of discussion about this, from watching YouTube. It's a pretty interesting line. And this seems like it's more kind of Freddie Gibbs anger here, but just this great moment of a faster sample. And then he shouts out John Brown, which as a white guy, there's not a lot of like real white, Trump is talking about making this this gallery of heroes, this sculpture garden of heroes. And I'm all for it. If it's John Brown, have John Brown sitting there, Come and Get Me, the director's cut, cinematic strings, and the rhythms are just so interesting. And then it feels like it's a satire of Drake at the end, the way he's rhyming and singing these strings, and he's like singing about like being lonely at the top, and he's at the chateau with his Kimber and his homies. I feel like he's just imitating and satirizing Drake. Bloodline Freestyle 2022 demo. This is really extra stuff because it's like, why is this even here? Like, why is this here? We don't need some song from before. But it's this great chopped up sample, compressed and muddy, and he's sing rapping. And the way it develops where it's just guitar, singing, and voice. I got this thing here for a reason. And this, even though it isn't a freak out, it's actually pretty avant-garde. You don't really hear rappers rapping over bass and guitar with no drums. And a lot of this angers other people making bad music, little jam at the end. Hate is the next song, my least favorite song on the album. I don't know, mechanical percussion's cool, kind of an amen break with a cough. It's fine. Take N is instrumental, which starts off with some Biggie quotes there. Again, sort of kind of jungle-y style rhythm here. Nice kind of chip core melody at a certain point. The single version of Don't Rely on Other Men is just unnecessary. It's just slow. It's just not as good as the other one. And then Jihad Joe, I don't know why it's here, except that it seems like he really wants this to be the last song you hear from this project. So, I don't know. It's got a lot of, it's got the rock sound, it's got the sample from Cold Grits, and it's neat. So there you go. So this is the Apocalypse Now redux of JPEG Mafia albums. These are the rest of my Patreons. They didn't ask for a shout out, but they still get to have their names at the end. Some of you I haven't put on here yet. I apologize. I've been super busy. You notice how I've been recording in the office? That's because I can't get any time at home to do this stuff. Like none. These are also my members on YouTube. You can join me as a member on YouTube. I don't know what to do. Oh, I'm releasing a Patreon vlog on my history with football, American football. If you find that interesting, which I don't know why you would, but if you do, check it out. All right, until next time. I heard you went down, down, down. That stuck in my head. Down, down, down. I heard you went down. There's the camera.